What is up, folks? Welcome to the High Tech Podcast. It's another week of high tech hijinks. Not really high tech hot takes. That's not the episode this week. That was last week. You should check that out. But no, we are excited. My name is Josh. I'm one of the hosts of the High Tech Podcast, joined by the one and only William Illingworth. Yeah, he's the other host. It's not like a special guest or anything. It's just he's the other host.
Voice.
Yeah, he's the other voice. You keep doing these different tones. Last episode I called you my AI assistant, I think, and you did like a weird AI Will, and I didn't like it as much. I gotta be honest.
Did you also listen to the last episode and hear I left one of us singing in the beginning of it? Because it was
really?
just too funny.
I didn't catch that. That's funny.
I just left it. I was like, you know what? This is funny.
It's funny. Yeah. Anyway, welcome, folks, to another week of talk about technology and learning and education and vibes. I don't know, and stuff. And sometimes cults that just seem to keep coming up recently. I don't know why.
We haven't made one recently, but we do talk about them on occasion.
Yeah. That would be an interesting high tech podcast experiment. How long does it take to start a cult? You know, like just
I'm out.
We're out. Okay. Well, we can stop
I don't
it after
wanna,
it goes too far. You know, like it's not.
Oh, sure, you can until you like it and you start getting money and fame.
Yeah,
and you buy a hotel and to move into it.
Yeah. Well, wow, that hit a little close to home, but that was fine. Anyway, before I continue, I must ask a question, because I think this is different. Is there a small painting of a little girl behind you now? Is this what? I literally just noticed it now. Oh, we've been talking for like hours, listeners. Like I've just noticed it now. That's literally what's happening.
See, folks, this is great. So, seriously, if you're not watching the video, you've got to go switch over to video and you got to see what Josh is talking about. There is a painting in my background. I've owned this painting for a very long time.
Okay. Yeah, don't try to gaslight me and tell me it's been there for a while, because it totally has not been.
No, I'm not going to gaslight you. No, not at all. No, I'm going to prove to you how long it's been there. I have YouTube up on the other screen. Let's see, 212. Oh, it's been there for a minute, dude.
Oh, no.
Let me see. Okay. Let's see. 212.
I've never seen before.
I'm going back to 205. Let's see. Yep, it's still in 205. Let's go to 194. Oh, this is good. It might not be in 194. So it's been at least 3 months.
I'm gonna look at 195 at least. I'm gonna see if 195
this is funny to me.
What do we got going on here?
I think that's a different one in 198. So it's 199. I think it's 199.
Because it's definitely not in 195.
It is in 199.
Picture there in 195.
Yep. So, and this is fun. I'm glad you asked this because I've changed what's in this position probably 6 or 7 or 8 times in the scope of the entire podcast. Now, it's not always been in frame, but previously I had a piece here that was done by my brother-in-law Eric, which is in the other room now. And this is a piece that my family purchased when I was 10, 11, maybe 12 years old. There's a very famous museum slash gallery in Philadelphia called the Barnes Museum. Okay. The Barnes Museum was funded and set up by some trust of some fancy millionaire, I don't know, 100 years ago. His last name was Barnes. And he had it built in his home. And then he set it up in his trust that it should never move there. And then Philadelphia, with all of its great wisdom, moved it. Right, so that's great that they just completely ignored his trust and his will and all that good stuff. But anyway,
that's how it goes. Yeah, that's the thing.
When I was a kid, I saw this painting at that thing, and we had a friend who was a docent, so she actually did curation and stuff for the museum, the gallery.
Yeah,
and
totally
she told us they had
described it for sure.
For our listeners, of course.
Yeah,
Josh,
that was for our listeners, not for me, because I'm
our listeners'
cultured.
benefit.
I know what that means. That's clearly.
I don't know why we're here talking about this, but this is
is fun. This is good.
She told us that they had an original print of it in the gift shop, and it was like very very early in the run. So again, need a little bit of lead here. Yeah, it's number 1 of
Okay.
15
Okay.
in the first prints. So there are more prints of that all over the world, of course, but that is number 1 in the first print run.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, as a kid, I fell in love with that. So I honestly, to this day, I do not know how much my parents paid for that painting.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean that sounds like
I have no idea.
I'm going to
is
justify myself for a second because I'm looking back at episode 199 and I want to explain why I think I've only commented on this painting now. Okay? I need everyone listening to understand what's going on. So if you go back to episode 199 and you hit play, okay? The picture, did you raise your camera recently or change the angle of your camera?
Well, that's true. That may have happened.
Okay, so what happened is it used to be
find out.
that only the bottom, like blue and white part of that painting, like the outside, showed up. And however you've moved your camera now has changed it so that the little girl is showing up. Like that's
more like
the
where my
angle
camera
change.
used to be.
Yeah. So what we've learned is I'm creeped out by small painted children. Like and that's what
I think that's a good thing, Josh. I want you to be.
Yes. Well, like I immediately go to like the 2 ghost girls in the hallway. Like that you know what I mean? With their like bicycles.
Yeah.
You
the horror film.
You got where I'm coming from.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. This is good. This is fun because I enjoy actually putting different things in that spot because this is the only place I have at home. It's like my office or whatever. So I rotate things through that position, and now I'm curious like how many times I've rotated. I don't know. And
I don't know.
Clearly, this is the first time you've ever noticed me rotating the painting.
Now I feel like I need to play a game, which is where I need to like because my background, listeners, if you only listen to audio, first of all. We talk about this all the time. Why? Stop that. Go to YouTube.
Go look at something else.
But check it out on YouTube. But or Spotify if you want to listen there. But you know, whatever. The thing that's funny about Will's and I's backgrounds is like it's known that Will's background is much simpler than mine. I have a bit more going on in the background, like my bookshelf and stuff. So I'm gonna start playing a new game, which I'm going to move one thing, and I'm gonna see if you notice, like how long it's gonna take you to notice.
Guys, he's gonna set a task in Notion every Tuesday.
It's gonna increasingly get bigger. Like it'll start as like just a book that's moved somewhere. You know what I mean? And then like this. I'm gonna like somehow get that Street Fighter arcade game that I still haven't set up like a year later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna set it up in the background somewhere and see if you know. Like it's gonna become a thing. You watch.
I'm excited for this. So I went back. I just clicked through a little bit. Episode 133. I have my martial arts belts here.
Yes. Yeah.
And my camera is also set up differently, so you can see the bottom of my brother-in-law's work that I had there for a while. In 194, I'm pretty sure it's still my brother-in-law's piece, but I took the belts down. I moved the belts. And it's just the corner of his piece. So you can't really like the camera got changed. So I've done so much over the years. Like the belts have been there and not there. The painting's changed. Josh will respect this and love this. Oh, this is beside me these days.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Swanson
Josh
Pyramid.
And Sam,
yeah,
Josh and
we
Sam
got that for you. Come from back from the
Pyramid
beach.
for me.
Yeah.
I honestly don't have anywhere to hang it, so I just sit it beside me because I like to look at it.
Well, I mean, like in a prominent spot on the podcast, you know, that seems like a decent thing. And one of the 8 billion fanatics you stole from
just 3 or 4 or 5. I didn't steal them.
That's true. They were just gifts. So anyway, side note: those listening to the podcast who want to start a podcast, this is how you really bring people in. You describe your backgrounds in excruciating detail. That's the way you bring people in. No, so we're here to talk this week about, at this point when you are all listening, this will not be as fresh as it is for Will and I. But we want to pose another question on the High Tech Podcast. We want to pose, have we become over dependent on tech and the internet? Okay, we're a technology podcast. We enjoy talking about technology. We enjoy talking about a lot of different things in relation to what we do, and tech and productivity and learning. But a thing happened, as it does, I think the last time this happened was probably a couple of years ago, honestly. Was when this happened. The infinite lord that is known as AWS or Amazon Web Services didn't just like crash and burn. Okay, like this is like there's variances of crashes. Okay, there's like there's falling off your bike, you know, or stumbling over like a little rock or something. You know, those are things. Okay, there's a fender bender. Right. You know, we've all had those, or at least I have. I don't know if Will has. So have you had a fender bender, or are you just like perfect?
I crashed a car once into a tree.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I've never.
So that's a different level. Okay. There's the crashing the car in the tree. Okay.
I've never actually hit another car.
Yes, and then there's the level that I would call the Josh level of crashing, which is where you spin your car off
Triple
the highway at
twist
80
over
miles
and
an
under.
hour, spin it 4 times
While sleeping.
and do quite a lot of damage to the car, totaling it. Okay, that's the vibe.
And
of
you
crashing.
came out unscathed, if am I right?
I did.
You weren't
So,
hurt?
folks, listeners who are listening to this, when I was in high school, it was my senior year. I was in a band. Okay, so the name of the band is right behind me. So I was coming back from a show that weekend. This is complete divergence of what we were doing, and I fell asleep on the highway. I'd never done that before because I was still fresh into driving, and through some events that will go unnamed, I ended up spinning my car multiple times and flipping it. I believe 4 times. I gotta think about this. If the car started here, it went boop, boop, boop. Yeah, so it was 4 times. Okay, 4, because I ended up upside down. And it was more than twice. So at 80 miles an hour, I ended up totaling a car, doing, I think, we were just ironically talking about this the other day. I don't hold me to this. If my dad is listening to this, he might correct me. Like it was like, I think over like $30,000 worth of damage to the car or something. Like it was the car was totaled.
Also, as you mentioned him, hey Randy, how you doing? It's been a while. Miss you, buddy. This for you. Josh, Randy and I have an agreement. Josh is great, but his dad, we're BFFs.
It's a little weird. One might call it a weird obsession, but it's fine. I'll let it go for this time. Anyway, so that's what happened. I totaled my car. It was a complete flip. So that's like another wreck, okay? Yeah, and then like an extreme wreck is like, you know, just being in a plane and it going down. Like, okay, that's the extreme wreck, okay?
Dark.
Or hypothetically driving a tank and not knowing how to do it, and then you end up wrecking the tank into something else. I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
AWS was somewhere between the crash last week, was somewhere between plane drop and Josh flips. Okay, like that was where we were at for Amazon Web Services being down. I don't actually know the full downtime, but I do know I believe it actually ended up reaching over 24 hours total. The impact of the downtime. But basically, for those of you who don't know, Amazon Web Services went down last Monday. So at this point, it would have been October 9th or 20th, right? Yep. So went down, and when that happens, there's a fun game we get to play, which is who uses AWS on the internet. Okay, like that's and so for those of you who don't like listeners who don't understand what AWS Amazon Web Services is, I mean, like, Will, what's the best way to explain it is essentially, I mean, they host servers for websites. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it is. At the layman's term, I mean, it's more complicated than that, but it's basically what we're talking about.
Every website, everything on the internet, every app has files on a server, right? And those servers, every time you type in www.google.com, your computer pings a call out to Google servers and calls back to you pictures, images, the search bar, whatever's on the website. And so when you make that ping to the server, it has to send back. What happened is Amazon, the server where all these other websites are hosted, went down. And so all of us kept pinging and nothing came back.
Nothing came back.
Lights out.
Yes. So to put this in perspective, okay? Some of the big names that went down. So how this impacted me was we use Canvas at work as a learning management system, and eventually it got to the point it just completely shut down, and was shut down from basically like somewhere around like 10 in the morning, I think, give or take. And like it was not working at early in the morning, but it officially fully shut down at like 10 in the morning and did not come back until 8 p.m., which is like a long time for a software like this, especially when it was the first day of new courses. So for like you guys, nobody could get in, which is wild. And it was like a global outage. It wasn't just like in our area. Canvas shut down for everybody, but they're not even the biggest players that were down. Let me kind of just off the top of my head read off the list that I know that was impacted. Verizon was down. Like Verizon, the phone network, was completely down. There were banks down. Multiple banks were down as well. Venmo crashed, like was not functional.
PayPal, all of
those were not functional. If you're a gamer, Fortnite just like closed down. Fortnite was down. No. Like nothing was happening on Fortnite. Roblox, which I don't really like that much, but is a very popular game and makes millions of dollars, was completely shut down because of Amazon Web Services. Ring cameras, the network, like the security Ring cameras everybody uses, completely shut down. Not even functional.
No security for you.
Which is crazy. So that's just a list of a couple of them. The list is much longer. Anybody was curious, Mission Barbecue that you order food from, I couldn't get ordering food. Will had said that there were a ton of like local businesses that were struggling as well to get stuff up and running. And so like this was a pretty huge outage, like a pretty big outage. And like while we can laugh about it, it is very interesting how we start to realize how much of what we're dependent on is one run by Amazon, which is like is an interesting dynamic, and is just shut down. I mean, think about all the things like people couldn't do. And to put this in perspective, like it's not just tech people that were like noticing this. Like my wife noticed this. Like regular people were noticing this. Like like people were feeling this impact. I mean, Will, how did you see this play out for you when AWS? Now I know your impact was different because your job is different than mine, and but like, how did you feel?
I got online yesterday morning and I had some like initial. So I'm an international business. My day job is an international company, and so like there were folks. I think it might have been earlier than 10 a.m. Well, no, if it was 10 a.m. EST, it was definitely earlier than 10 a.m. EST because we had people in Europe posting on Slack at like 6 a.m. that they were having issues, right? So the effect maybe of it was being noticed earlier, but like most of the Eastern time zone didn't start seeing or trying to log in and do things or whatever until like 9:30, 10 o'clock. But our company had posts because like Slack was affected, Salesforce was affected, our learning management system Docebo was affected, Zoom was affected, like Asana is probably our big project management software that was affected. Like it crippled my day job yesterday. But you know, we didn't like, again, I kind of got on, didn't really notice like, something took a little bit longer to load. So I just switched tabs, went, did something else. And then I came back and it was still loading and was like, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like you just like, why is this taking so long to load? And then I went to Slack, which actually booted right up for me. So I don't know if that was like a intermittent outage or if it was specific to regions, because that's one of the other things about servers, folks. There's not just one server or one server farm. There are servers all over the world. They put them in places to create server regions so that it's easier for, you know, like it's just science, right? If I'm in New Jersey and I ask for information from China, it takes more time for that information to transfer. Yeah. But if my server is in China, or is in upper state New York, and I'm calling from New Jersey, it's going to get to me faster. So these server farms are all over the place. And like one of the things that was still affecting me even this morning, so we're recording on the 21st. I know you're going to hear this a week later, but this all happened yesterday to us. My systems were still slow even until 10, 11 a.m. this morning on the 21st. Yeah. So like Josh was saying, there's like at least a 24-hour effect for certain people, certain regions, certain platforms, because they just weren't able to fix it, turn around, figure out what was the problem, whatever, you know, reboot things. They probably had to reboot servers, like a crazy, crazy effect. But for my day job, I think mostly I was able to kind of continue on with things yesterday because I had a lot of email-based stuff. Email wasn't really affected for me. Slack got back on pretty early. Zoom was working.
You guys use Google email, right? Like Gmail and stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
So that's what I'd heard. The ironic part in the story is that eventually it didn't happen right away, but eventually Outlook started having problems, which I think is hilarious because Microsoft has a competitor to Amazon Web Services. So like that means they're using AWS somewhere, like in their system, which like is just hilarious.
Some kind of dependency.
Like it's the most Microsoft move in the history of Microsoft moves. You know what I mean? Like
we'll pay somebody else for the thing that we offer. Yeah.
So obviously, so this all impacted a lot of stuff. And to put it in perspective, like it's not just inconvenience of accessing things. Like there are people who lost significant money on Monday just because AWS was down, right? Like think about all the people who would normally use Venmo and PayPal to do things that did not go through. And while yes, probably some people figured out other ways to pay them, there are definitely people who didn't. Like, you know, I know people who like didn't order food online like they normally would and just did something different because they couldn't figure out the online ordering.
My Instagram
there were entire
was flooded
banks and companies down because of AWS.
With restaurants in a local area that just was like, well, we're closed for the day. Like they just closed. They're like, we can't figure out what's wrong. We can't take online orders. That, you know, maybe even a lot of local businesses, like because Toast and some of those kinds of businesses like sell the full suite of services, right? Like if you go into some of our local restaurants, they have an app for how they seat the tables, right? So if that
Toast
app
runs
isn't
the whole
working,
thing now.
Right? It's like
if that
you
whole thing
literally
is down,
can't take payment. You can't seat people. You can't. Like yesterday became a day where everyone needed to have cash, and then some banks probably wouldn't even let them withdraw because it goes back to a server to ask for the money.
So inevitably the question becomes, right, like, are we overly dependent on the internet and technology? Like because to put this in context, folks, Amazon finally released what happened. Now, Will and I are not experts in this
do you know? I didn't know.
Oh, I know. I know what happened. At least the basics. I mean, you can go look this up, and people who know more about this totally fact check Will and I. I'm not an expert in this side of things, like server, like technology infrastructure, that type of stuff. That's not my field. But what I do know is it was a DNS error. So it wasn't even a hack. Like it was an error. Like it was a bug. Now I didn't read deep enough to actually find out what the cause was, but basically like what I do understand about DNS stuff, Will, and maybe you understand this a little bit better, is generally the idea is when a DNS error, you've probably heard this before. It's usually, if I'm understanding correctly, it's basically like the server can't communicate back the website. So like when somebody's pinging or trying to get into like, let's say Venmo, a DNS error stops the server from being able to like, it doesn't know where you're trying to go. It doesn't understand where you're trying to get to.
It's an address issue, right?
Yeah, it's basically
literally
a name.
This is where you should go. And so, like I was saying earlier, my computer reaches out and knocks on the door. It knocked on the wrong door, right? Like that's the problem. They changed the the DNS.
It's basically like you walked into a town and you're like, I want to go to Will's house. And the guy who's supposed to know where Will's house is just got punched in the face and doesn't remember anything. And so he's like, I don't know where Will's house is. And he just sits there staring at you. Like he doesn't even say, I don't know where Will's house is. He just stares at you. Like that's basically the vibe of a DNS error. Okay. So it wasn't even because people were obviously conjecture, like, is this like, did AWS get hacked? Because they've had that happen before where there's been like cyber attacks on AWS, things like that. But right now, Amazon is claiming it was just that error. Like, just that error debilitated, like, Western society's ability to take payments.
Did Amazon hire syllabus guy?
The rubric guy. It's rubric guy. That was the joke.
Rubric guy.
Yeah.
Rubric
so
guy.
for context, folks, if you don't know, my team does not.
That joke goes back a long time.
Yeah, this goes back a long time. My team does not like the rubrics in Canvas, and so we're convinced that Canvas hired like their owner's cousin, and he's called rubric guy, and he goes and does a bunch of dumb stuff around different companies. He basically designed OneNote, in case anybody's curious.
Savage.
Yeah. No, so like anyway, yeah, it's just like this is crazy, right? Like the level now, like let's put this in perspective. First world problems. Okay.
Right.
People lost money. Things didn't go well. My students couldn't get to their courses. Right. But nobody bombed our houses. You know what I mean? Like, there's no, like, put this in perspective.
Right.
There are worse things going on in the world. Okay.
Right.
Than just this. But this did give a window into the house of cards that our infrastructure is built on. Like, I had a friend who their surgery got moved because they literally couldn't schedule the surgery because AWS was down. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is crazy.
No, you're telling me surgeons can't work because of AWS?
Like, AWS is
wild.
down. But like, this is a valid question to ask, right? Because AWS is just an example of what's been happening over the last couple of years. I mean, think about last couple of years ago, the CrowdStrike issue that happened, right? Like, that was an update issue. CrowdStrike, for those of you who don't remember, will maybe fact check me real quick, look up when this happened. This was like last year or 2 years ago, right? The CrowdStrike issue.
I think it was last year because we had a security incident response to it.
Yeah, so like there was an update in CrowdStrike and they run a bunch of, that's different than AWS. Yeah. It's not a security thing.
Oh, yeah. That shut down hospitals too.
Yes, that's what I mean. Gosh. Like, people literally couldn't fly out of states because of an update somebody pushed through a software in CrowdStrike. Right? Like that.
Last July 24th.
Yes. And the way they solved it was by giving stakeholders gift cards. Sorry, that's like completely different. I will say, I think there was a quote in an article I was reading last night about the AWS issue that, if I remember correctly, was from somebody around the CrowdStrike thing, and it just basically said they were just happy they weren't the focus. Total side note. But like, okay, so like that's another example, right? That was only a year or so ago, and this isn't the first time this has happened with AWS, where it goes down the side of this issue. This is the longest error I've seen in a long time, right? But like, this isn't the first time, and that issue with CrowdStrike was really serious. Like, it debilitated hospitals' abilities to do their work, because certain systems just weren't working. Because of that. And that one was a real security threat. Like, that was not just like AWS went down. That was like CrowdStrike oversaw web security stuff. Yeah. Like, they had frameworks. And so that created a very large problem for a lot of people. So the question always comes up is like, are we too dependent on tech? Are we over dependent on tech and the internet? Like, is it gotten to that point?
I'd say yes, but like, what else is what else can you do? Right? Like, if you think in a world of redundancy, right? Let's just say that we could build a world that uses AWS as it currently does, or similar server softwares, but you also have like an on-premise backup, right? So like 37 Signals sells their software. You can download it to your local devices and run it on your local server. Like, is that the world we'd have to live in? Or should hospitals, as an example, not use cloud-based software? Should hospitals only have on-premise software? The government only has on-premise.
So that's an interesting right. So we're getting into some like more IT stuff that Will and I don't normally get into because this isn't really our area, which is interesting.
Oops.
But just real quick side note, I would like to point out Notion, Basecamp, and Airtable were all functioning perfectly fine on Monday. I would just like to point that out. Yep. Okay.
For Notion.
So, so not everybody uses AWS. There was stuff that was working. Like, it's not like the entire internet went dead. You know, it's not like that episode of the IT Crowd where they convince her that the entire internet's in a box, and like the internet's just totally destroyed. Right.
I missed that show.
Yeah, but like, no, this is a valuable question, right? And actually, honestly, 37 Signals is kind of posing this question from a different angle, which is basically like, are we too reliant on other companies for these cloud subscription services that like we're becoming too dependent on that? And so like, because one answer to this could be like there's always, let's deal with the first question or issue that I think comes up, right? Immediately out of the woodwork comes all the professors who are like, see, I told you, online education is horrible. We can't, one was like, see, we can't deliver on our promise to our students today. I literally had a conversation with someone like that. And it took all my energy that day to just like walk away from that conversation. But like, here's the first reality I want to acknowledge. We are dependent on a lot of things. Okay. And this is just an example of it. Okay. It went down. Is it mind blowing that a company the size of Amazon with an error had this problem happen. I think it's kind of a thing they should probably work on. That's a hot take.
Maybe feels like a good idea,
right? Like, you know, but like, overall, like we're dependent on a lot of things. It doesn't matter if you're in online education or you're not, or you're doing stuff on the internet, or you're doing things. There's plenty of things we're dependent on that would cause things to go down, right? Like an entire road, like let's say entire traffic jam in a city, right? Like one area gets closed down. Think about how much impact that has on us in our city. When one area gets shut down, like the whole city becomes almost impenetrable at times.
Yeah.
Especially if you're DC or Philly. I honestly think it's stupid. Like we're dependent on a whole bunch of things, right? And like, so to argue that, well, because AWS went down, here's the reason we shouldn't trust technology. It's like, yes, technology's not going to work. Just like sometimes people don't work. Sometimes things don't work. You know what I mean? Like that's like the chisel that we used to use sometimes breaks. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, I think the point like you just made there, like the chisel we used to use, like we don't anymore, right? Like we've made the technologies better and better. We've made, you know, instead of a chisel we use a jackhammer or a drill or whatever. But like,
clearly Will and I are very good at this. Working with our hands.
One of the things that I think is a real interesting philosophical question with an issue like this. Are you familiar with Moore's law? It's the idea that technology continues to scale up, and it originally started with transistors and a specific kind of chip or something, but like people more generally apply it to like hard drive space, right? Like hard drives used to be 5 megabytes, smaller than 5 megabytes, and now hard drives, you can't buy a computer with a hard drive less than 1 terabyte of storage, right? So there's this. It's
essentially the idea that the general idea is like basically every 2 years technology basically doubles in
functional
capability and capacity. Yes, there's been a big conversation with AI's in induction into things. It's been messing with Moore's law a little bit, where like it's been actually moving quicker than Moore's law originally anticipated.
The idea, though, that I'm considering, though, is kind of like an inverse relationship to Moore's law, right? So the longer we have the internet, right, we used to have a funnel of how many errors would be made. And I remember being a kid, MySpace going down, some of my favorite websites not being available on the weekends or being slow. Do you remember when websites were slower when everyone got home from school? Like, I literally remember the world was not as effective at doing the internet.
This is a valid point, right? Like
we can make jokes about DSL, dial-up, and all that, but like, dang it, all that stuff. But
you made it worse by also saying something after it, and now I made it worse by also saying something here.
All right, so I'll just make a little note there. Take care of myself around 33 minutes. Anyways, so we used to be not as effective, and today you like something happening yesterday on October 20th, the AWS outage is so foreign to us. The latency or the uptime of all the software and all the world around us that's built on tech is so good. It is so good that to be without it for hours was wild, was dystopian. But
yeah, I mean, this is a
here's
valid
what's
point.
happening. The more these things happen, right? Like yesterday happens, the likelihood of it ever happening again gets smaller and smaller because companies do correct. They do put in procedures to check. Not to say it won't ever happen, but like we go from the world Josh and I grew up in where the internet was unreliable to a day where, oh my gosh, something happened and we can't even fathom that the internet went down for a second. There will be a day, I think, where probably the reliability of the internet and internet-based tools will be 99.99999%. Like right now it's not. There's definitely more outages overall, but I think we'll see a day when it is.
So my own like theological leanings and perspective hold me back from probably believing that because I think we put too much confidence in our ability to develop. That said, I think you bring up a valid point, which is the fact that we used to be more accepting of these types of issues.
Sure.
Because it used to be that it was expected that this wouldn't work, and our expectations have changed. We're now so used to it just working that, like, I mean, you see this in like younger generations, right? Where like I'm not saying us millennials fit perfectly in the space where we just learned how to troubleshoot things. But like there was the generation before us that didn't have to use tech, and so they didn't have to learn it. And then there was a generation after us that just like everything works, and so they don't have to deal with what happened. They didn't have to code their own MySpace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They didn't have to live that life.
Yeah.
There's a valid point,
So much
right? Like
privilege.
things used to be much slower. What we're considering problems now used to be a normal thing back in the day. I think that's a valid point. I think our impatience and our
expectations.
Our expectations
are so high.
Yes, I think are too high and unhealthy in some ways.
Yeah.
Like the people that I saw reacting like this is totally unacceptable. It's like, guys, things are just sometimes not gonna work. That's the reality of life. Like nothing is just perfect. No human being is perfect. No technology is perfect. Unless you're Notion. That's not true. Notion has plenty of problems where it goes down. You know, like it's not a perfect scenario. And so I think that's a valid point that our expectations are wrong sometimes. I will say this. The one thing that I found very interesting is I was reading an article that there's already been some conversations going on in Europe about their dependence on basically AWS, right? So like I didn't really think about this, but like Europe doesn't really have the equivalence of like the server type of solutions that we have as far as like internet providers that the US has. And so a lot of like European companies and things are very dependent on AWS and other solutions like that. So there's been a conversation about that dynamic. I would ask, have we become overly dependent on giant companies for subscriptions, right? So like there's this, you and I have been seeing this, movement happening where some people are pushing for kind of honestly backtracking from going heavy into cloud services and backtracking into like having your own stuff, right? I mean, 37 Signals, that's what they're so big about on this. Now their angle is not necessarily as much security. It's more about they're tired of paying these people absurd amount of money and just constantly having to pay more money every time they need more subscriptions. Right. But there is a question of like, okay, like hospitals and things, should we be building in secondary dependencies or backups like we used to do with generators? You know what I mean? Like, have we gotten to the point now where we have to start looking in the internet
should they have server backups?
Like, do there need to be backups for things? To your point, the government does that because the government, well, I mean, for a lot of different reasons, can't just rely on outside help in this area, but they also
it needs to be something that's on premise that they have access to. It's a whole thing.
So like,
I don't know if it's all government. But.
Yeah. So if we reach that level where certain companies do need to consider that idea, like if this is a big enough problem for your company to lose a day, is it worth investing energy in not being hyper dependent on Amazon? It does concern me a little bit at the level that we are dependent on one company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that is an interesting dynamic that I have been wrestling with recently.
Ironically, what's good about what you're doing and what we're processing here is like there's nothing that we can do. You, Josh, me, you, like your boss.
Oh yeah, this is not my problem to solve. This is why I'm happy to philosophically talk about it on our podcast.
Right. and there's nothing to accomplish here, but one of the things I think we can do in this, watch for it. One of the things I think we can do in this is not react to it. Okay,
this is what you're about to do.
There's a really difficult moment here. Right, we could try to react to our situation. We need to reflect on these things, right? We need to take time. And
we should have checked to see if Reflect app was down with the AWS.
I know, right? What a joke that would have been. By the way, go Reflect and the app's down.
Yeah, the app's down.
We are taking a moment to highlight Reflection, affiliate partner of ours. Really, really good tool. Really good for taking time. But like, I'm serious. It was right there in front of me for a transition. But I'm serious that like some of these questions Josh is asking and that we're posing are good things for us to reflect on, because one of the things that I think we all should take more courage in, I guess, is while we cannot go and change AWS, we do have the power to advocate for change. And if we know what we believe and if we know what we want to see and accomplish in the world around us, that is the beginning of change. That is how we can impact big companies like AWS. So if we decide, if Josh and I can be power players in this decision-making process, and we say, hey, maybe it's not good to be on AWS, the very simplest thing is that if he and I buy a website, we don't put it on an AWS server. That's an opportunity for Josh and I to decide and to operate with. Like, don't give them our business.
I'm pretty sure all of our stuff website-wise is based
Are
on
we?
AWS. Yeah, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah. Well, not the Notion site. Notion site's on whatever Notion is.
Yeah,
right?
but the domain we run the Notion site through is through a separate domain system, and I'm pretty sure that's AWS. So.
Here's us learning.
I didn't
right?
check. I was too busy worrying about the other bigger stuff than our podcast website.
Is our website up? But these are things we can do, and it's a serious consideration to take time to reflect on this and work through whether or not you are, as a person, too dependent on tech or AWS. Is your business? Do you have a small business? Do you have a small team? Are you choosing tools that are focusing on these kinds of servers? Oh gosh, I really hope I can think of this on the fly. There's a server system, a server provider that's very friendly in education. They have very good rates and stuff for like ed tech or educational sites. Maybe not ed tech, but like they're a server provider that is not the AWS model. They are a small homegrown effort, and you can buy server space from them for really cheap for educational purposes. They really want it to be .edus and stuff like that. And for the life of me, I can't think of the name now. It's like something with an R. But I learned about it when I was at Penn State, and I actually through Hacks, Brian, we've had Brian Allendike on the podcast before with the Hacks PTO. He introduced me to this platform, so I could probably backtrack to them through Brian and Hacks. But that server platform emphasized a philosophical structure to their system. And so if you agree with the philosophy, go find them and use them. You know what I mean? Like there's choices we can make here about the tech we're using and consuming and using to deliver our tools or our apps. If you are a person, no judgment, if you are a person who is boycotting Amazon, and you got rid of your Amazon Prime membership and you don't want to participate in their ecosystem, then you also need to consider this with the tools you're subscribing to and to the tools you use to deliver your products, right? You may not, until yesterday, I bet there's a whole lot of people who didn't know Amazon runs half of the internet, right? Yeah. Half of the internet is on an AWS server. And so you may have gotten rid of your Prime membership. Again, no judgment. Mazel tov if that's the way you're choosing to operate and that's your philosophy that you're supporting. But you learned yesterday how much more you have to address if you want to get your money and your server responsibilities out of Amazon's hands, because they're behind Toast, they're behind banks, they're behind all these things that are there. So take some time, reflect on these things. We recommend Reflection app. It's a great tool to use while reflecting. They have prompts and stuff for you to consider all sorts of things in life, not just these issues. But if you're processing these thoughts for yourself, go ahead and use this kind of tool. It's got lots of good features in the premium subscription that can help you even sort through and analyze your own thoughts, right? So for free, you can use it any day you want. I use it free all the time. I love Reflection app for my free note taking. It's secure. It's easy to use. But with premium, you could do lots of searches and you could cross-reference your own reflection, your own notes. So check that out. You can head over to High Tech Pod. No, that's not the right link. I mean, you can go to our website, hightechpod.us, and the affiliate is at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, reflection.app/hightech is the link you're looking for. We will also share that link on the episode page. You can go to literally it's on our front page on our website, so you can also find it there, but we will also share it on the episode page and in the description of this episode. I think the point of what Will's getting at is like the Reflection app is an intentionally designed app for reflecting and journaling. Will specifically has been using it for a very long time. And has found a lot of benefit on how it helps you organize your thoughts, how it gives you prompts that help kind of engage you in reflection in a way that you wouldn't do on your own. So like if you're sitting here thinking like, I have my own journaling app, I have my own notes app, why would I use Reflection? It's because Reflection is entirely committed around this idea of reflecting and is built to help you reflect in a way that you don't do on your own, like and people struggle to do. And it's built in a way, Will, right, it's pretty quick. Like you're able to use it fairly quickly to do like reflection. Like it's become kind of a natural practice of your life because reflection apps made it easier. It's kind of given you a system for doing it in a way that you would
right
have
on
had
my
to build for
phone.
yourself. Yeah.
I've been using it for 3.5 years. I scrolled all the way back, and I've been using it since March of 2022. And honestly, folks, there's everything in here from my thoughts about God and theology and my growth in this world to like my health concerns at times and like things that are pretty private, and it's like I've got a lot of information in this
new episode idea. Will just reads
nope,
that prompts.
Not happening. Also, we'd have to edit half of the episodes. Like I have to edit this one already because somebody couldn't keep his tongue in line. So not happening.
Yeah. So anyway, go check that out at reflection.app/hightech. We'll put that in the description of this episode as well as the episode notes. And if you're interested, go check out the app. Like Will said, you can do it for free. You can also subscribe and pay for the tool as well. And our affiliate link that we're giving you there will help you do that and helps us out.
Affiliate link specifically gives you 40% off a premium.
Oh yes, that's right. So if you want to get started, you use it for free and you really like it and you want to get started, that link will give you 40% off. So you can actually get it cheaper than you would anywhere else. So make sure to check that out, and that helps us out if you go do that. We do not promote apps like this that we do not support. Significantly have used ourselves. And so if you're curious about Reflection app, by the way, just a side note, you can go check out episode 53 of the High Tech Podcast. We actually do a full breakdown of Reflection and Reflection app. And we've had some people from the team on Reflection on the episodes as well. I don't remember which episodes those were, if it was that one or not.
Yeah.
But
I know we've had Dave on since 53, but, you know.
Anyway, that's kind of where we're at. So check that out.
Episode 140 is the last time I think Dave was on with us, which was great. We've talked to him.
Those episodes are cool. You get to hear the vision behind the app and what kind of led to it. I think that's why Will and I just are passionate about Reflection app is kind of also the mindset behind it.
We stand with
is
their philosophy. Yeah. So.
All
right, folks. I mean, until next time, next episode, so long as the internet doesn't disappear on us again. This has been another episode of the High Tech Podcast. We love doing this. We hope you enjoy this ride with us and have a couple of laughs while we think through some of the hard stuff and the fun stuff. Until next time, we'll continue empowering minds.
Embracing tech.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Buckle up, let's ride.